about lung cancer. So, my talk will be in two parts. One will be basically the epidemiology, diagnosis and screening, as well as the staging, and the second part of my talk will be on the management of lung cancer. So, what basically I will be covering is epidemiology, screening of lung cancer, diagnosis, molecular pathology and testing and treatment. If we see the global cancer scenario that has just come recently, that is what is known as the Globocan 2012. So, that says that the worldwide during the year 2012, this is the data about 27 major cancers, and for all cancers combined for 2012. So, they are available what is known as the Globocan series of the International Agency for Research on Cancer. You see, according to this data for the year 2012, there are a total of 14.1 million cases of cancer of all types, of which about 2.8 million people died. If you see, the most of the cancers are in the left hand side, that shows about the number of new cancer cases, and the right hand pie chart that shows the number of deaths. You see, this is the Southeast Asian countries and the other Asian countries, about 48% of all cancers were in this region. And similarly, again if you can see, the cancer mortality is again constituted about 55% of all cancer deaths in these countries. Of course, there are other countries, the Americas, the Europe, around 15 to 21% respectively. Then you see, the most common cancer of the all cancers, I told you all the 27 types of cancers, the lung cancer is the commonest, that is about 1.82 million cases of lung cancer in the year 2012, followed by breast and colorectal cancer. So, this is the most common causes of cancer death is again because of lung cancer, that is about 1.6 million people out of these 1.82 million cases of lung cancer throughout the world, they died because of this cancer. This again the another data that was published in 2015 by JAMA Oncology, that says the global burden of cancer for the year 2013. The earlier one I told you about 2012. Again you can see the left hand side is the female and the right hand side the figures for male. If you see in case of females, in the developed country, the global, the middle one is the global, that is the blue one, that shows almost there is a steady and there is little slight decrease for the year 2012-13 starting from 2010 onwards, whereas in the developed countries and the developing countries they have remained by and large steady, except in developing countries there is a slight decrease. On the other hand, if you see on the right hand side, that is for the statistics for the males, you see in developed countries you can see from 1990 till about 2012-13 there is a gradual decline in the total cases of lung cancer, that includes that of trachea and bronchus. And whereas in developing countries, if you see the lowest one, that is in yellow, that shows there is an increase in the incidence of lung cancer. This is what the situation, meaning thereby you see in developing countries the lung cancer is increasing. I mean it is all types of cancer, not only of course this is for lung cancer, and in the developed countries they are coming down. Again this is what I was telling you, this is the same one that shown in a different way. You see, of the total estimated new cases of 14.1 for the year 2012, and then out of that again that is the different regions, that shows I have already shown you this slide, and of the 8.2 million deaths of all cancers, it is again highest in case of Asian countries. And then of the Asian countries, the China alone accounts for 50% of all cancers in this region, about 48.9%, and then followed by India about 16%, Japan 11%, Indonesia 4.8%, and the Republic of Korea about 3.5% of cases that had occurred in Asia alone for the year 2012. Then this is the estimated age standardized incidence and mortality rates of both sexes. The incidence rate shows in case of blue, that is shown in blue, and the mortality in the red. If you see, this is the overall both sexes. It is the breast and prostate, they are the common one. Lung is the third. It is the incidence wise, and then the mortality wise also it is very high, both in case of males and females, as the most common cause of death from cancer worldwide, about 19.4% of the total, and it is the third most common cancer worldwide, and lung cancer is the most common cancer in men worldwide, that incidence in 2012 about 1.2 million, that is about 17% of the total. Similarly, this is now in case of men, the same thing I have told you, both the incidence as well as mortality, again you can see it is highest in the case of lung, that is the Globocan 2012 report. In case of women, you see that is the fourth common cause of both incidence as well as mortality, as you can see, the fourth commonest cause in case of female. Here we are separating them into sex wise, male or female. And then you see this is the cancer deaths in USA for the year 2016. You can see again lung and bronchus, that is lung cancer, is again the highest in case of males, the cancer related deaths, and in case of females again the highest, the lung cancer is again the highest cause of cancer death, both in males as well as females in the USA. What about India? That is as per that Globocan report, the estimated figure again you see of all cancers they are reported in India for the year 2012. You see the breast of course is 10.3%, cervix uterine is about 9.9%, and then lung cancer is about 9.3%. This is of the both sexes, male and female. And again this is it is estimated that by 2030 of all ages, the male cancer, that is that shown in the incidence in 2012, and then this is the demographic effect, that as we can see the male it will be very high, the number will be nearly 90,000 cases, and in case of females it will be another about 27,000 cases. Then again the cancer deaths, again if you see the lower one, both male and female, you see about 80,000 people will die by the year 2030, and females about 25,000 people, females will die because of lung cancer. The other point is the stage at diagnosis, the stage we are going to discuss in more detail. You see the most important thing, if you note the green one, that shows the most of the time it is the distant metastasis. By the time we diagnose lung cancer, about 57% will be having distant metastasis. Then regional disease is another 22%, and then only 16% will be having localized disease. That means you see more than 80-85% of cases they will have in a very advanced stage. Again you see the 5-year survival by stage at the diagnosis. If you see the overall lung cancer survival at 5 years is just around 17.4%. There is not much improvement, although there is a significant development. You see for the year, if we compare, it is in the early 70s and 80s, it was only about 8%. So now it has increased to about 17.4% 5-year survival, but the overall survival at 5 years is not very good. You see the more, if you see if the disease is localized or it is a localized disease, the 5-year survival is about 55%. If it is regional, it is about 27.4%, and if it is distant metastasis, just about 4.2%. So as I told you in the previous slide, as we have got many cases which are distant metastatic or regional, so therefore the overall 5-year survival is very low. Then you see these are the 5 common cancers, that is the cancer statistics of USA. You see the lung cancer, it is the deaths per 100,000, it is the highest. As I have told you, lung cancer is the most common cause of cancer related death. Lung followed by colorectal, breast, pancreas and prostate. You see, if you combine the remaining 4, that is colorectal, breast, pancreas and prostate, combined together, they are even less than the lung cancer. That is, lung cancer surpasses the combined death because of these 4 other common cancers. Then the same I have already told you, the lung cancer is one of the cancers with worst prognosis. The one that is shown on the highlighted ones, that you can see all stages just 16-17%. Of course, if it is local, regional or distant metastasis, the survival rate decreases. Then the lung cancer diagnosis and survival, that as you can see, the diagnosis you see that was in blue, that shows because we are diagnosing more and more cases as distant metastasis, and then the reverse wise, if you see the mortality or the survival, you can see the mortality comes down as because as the disease you can see localized, it is highest. If it is distant, the mortality is quite high. Mortality is quite low, or what I am trying to say, the survival is quite low if the diagnosis is made at the very late stage. Then again, this is the age cancer deaths by site in the USA. You can see the upper one. You see, while the most of the other cancers like stomach, colon and rectum, prostate, pancreas, that shown in the lower graph. In case of males, you can see the cancer related death because of lung cancer. You see, there was a steady increase from the 1930s till about 1990, late 1990s, but then gradually there is a slight decline, but still they are much more in comparison to other types of cancers. What in case of females, again the similar picture, except if you see lung and bronchus, which was at the lowest till about the year 1965, 70 or even to as late as 1990s, you see there was a steady increase, and even still it is increasing. This is because possibly the smoking in females that picked up sometimes in 70s, 80s or 60s, and the male cancers, for the males, the smoking rate has declined, and in case of females it is increasing. So, therefore, that is reflected in the form of mortality. So, this is again the same thing. This is the 2015 estimates of the males and females. The lung cancer remains one of the very common ones, that was we have already seen. Now, coming to Indian pictures, we have got what we call, we have got the cancer registration program, which we call as the hospital based, and the other one is the population based cancer registries in different places. You can see if you look to the right hand side, to the northeastern region, actually in fact that is the hot spot, followed by the Goa region, the North Goa and South Goa, and then in Tamil Nadu. These are the hot spots for lung cancer in India. You can see these are the areas in Imphal, in the other areas in the northeast, they are the highest number, that is more than 15 per 100,000 population, that is the age adjusted incidence rates, that is in case of males. In case of females, almost it is a similar picture. You can see the northeastern regions, it is very high, about more than 10 per 100,000 population, followed by South Goa and then the Chandigarh in case of females. So, actually why it is so, because as we know the north eastern region, again the smoking prevalence is very high, both in case of males and females. Again, this is a international comparison of age adjusted incidence rates. Fortunately, the Indian figures as it is, you can see Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, Bhopal, Barsi. So, in comparison to the top one, if you see Canada, USA, China, so their incidence rate is quite high, about 72, 40, 39, But whereas in India, the 4-5 names I tell, it is below 5 or around 5, that much I can say. And again in case of this is in case of males, again it is the similar thing. You can see the highest in the USA, then the other in case of Bangalore, Pune, and then Chennai and Singapore Indians, they are much less. And then these are the age adjusted rates with that of our population based cancer registry, what we call as PBCR. In India long, you can see the again it is the same thing. The Aizawl district is having the highest number in India, followed by Mizoram, then the other ones like Kollam district, etc., and the Papampara district. So they have got the high number, but but still they are not that high as in case of Western countries. So this is what we call as the National Cancer Registry Program. These are this report of 27 population based cancer registries that is maintained by Indian Council of Medical Research. This is for the year 2012 and 14. Again, as the latest figure, almost the same one as I have told you. In case of males, Izmir city in the Turkey had the highest age adjusted rate, and then in females, the Maori people of New Zealand had the highest age adjusted rate. Then again, this is the National Cancer Registry Program for 2016. You see the upper one, the lung in case of females, the trends over time. You can see there is a increase in the all places, Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Mumbai, and the lower one is the age adjusted, the upper one is the for 100,000 population. Again you can see Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Mumbai, there again the number is this is the joint point regression model, and this is the trend. You can see the number is in fact is increasing in case of females. So then so if you summarize the lung cancer seen in India and the Indian Cancer Information Platform, what we call the Cancer Registry Program, as I told you, that means every district now is connected through the centralized system which is situated at Bangalore. You see the cancer of larynx and lungs, you see for the year 2008 to till about 2020, it is projected that if in 2008 it was around 84,000, and then you see 2015 about 93,700, and for 2020 it is projected the figure will be crossing about 1 lakh. Again this is the National Cancer Registry Program and the Globocan that shows in the problem for India. This is overall problem. I have already shown you this slide. It is the commonest cancer in men, about 8% of all cancers, and up to 30% of all tobacco related cancers in men, and the burden is little lesser in women, and it is the commonest cause of death from cancer that we have already shown. Now then in case of males, you see the very interestingly, this is the Globocan 2012 picture. You see almost it has now surpassed, or at least it is as common as that of the lip, oral or the oropharyngeal cancer. The number is, if you see, it is only few hundred less than the commonest cancer of oropharyngeal cancer, which used to be the commonest cancer in this country. In case of males now it is almost equal that of the oropharyngeal cancer. Where in case of then the mortality, again you can see the highest mortality, about 14% of all cancer deaths is because of lung cancer. Then in case of this is the age standardized incidence and mortality rate in men in India is again lung cancer is the highest, followed by lip and oral cavity. The death because the lung has come up because the mortality rate is quite high in comparison to lip and oral cavity. In case of females, you see, although it is not the commonest one, are the organ specific one like breast and a cervical cancer, but you know about a few years ago lung cancer was not amongst the 10 common causes of cancer, both incidence as well as mortality wise, but now you can see it is now the 7th common cause of cancer incidence as well as mortality. So that means it has come now within the first 10 common cancers in this country in case of females. This is again a worrying fact. Then there are a lot of case reports, as you can see, I have just given only one slide. There are after two, it is up to 2001. Then even after that there are many reports. What I am trying to say here is that from all parts of the country, the cancer, lung cancer is reported from every part of the country, east, west, north, south, central India, everywhere you can see the authors have reported. Then more details about their age, the sex, as well as the cell types we will discuss subsequently in little more detail. And then this is we have already showed you the global versus Indian epidemiology. I have already told you. Similarly, in case of females, I have already told you in comparison to Africa, Asia, but still fortunately we have got a less common cancer in comparison to these states. And again this is that shows the global versus Asia versus Indians. You can see the males, it is again the trends in the incidence of lung cancer. It is coming out in case of USA, Canada, Australia and Republic of Korea, then Japan of course it is increasing. Whereas in case of India, you see in case of males, the lowest one, the curve so that goes up. So that is again, as I was telling you, lung cancer is becoming more common in India. The right hand side again in case of females, it is almost a similar trend. Of course, we know in many countries the lung cancer in females is increasing, so also in case of Indian females. This is again from different parts, the Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Thiruvananthapuram, Dibrugarh. Again you see either the incidence has this is the time trend, it is the total number of cancers, and then you can see there almost every place on these 4 or 5 places there is an increasing starting from 1984 till about 2006. This is in case of in case of females, again the similar picture, you can see there is increase in all places. Then this is as you see, as you are telling, the stage of diagnosis, about 83% of non-small cell lung cancer patients are diagnosed at a stage of 3B or 4 at diagnosis, which is a very advanced stage of the disease. Again if you see, this is the distribution between the smoking wise, heavy smokers, that is smoking index of more than 301. You can see then the light smokers, that is 1 to 300, and never smokers it is about 130, you see in case of females, of course the smoking is less in females, but you can see in the never smokers it is about 52% in case of females. The mean age it is between 54 to 61 years, as you can see, depending upon the amount of smoking. Then again you see the squamous cell carcinoma is the most common, about 58%, and a light to moderate if it is 50%, and you can see still in case of smokers, squamous cell carcinoma is the most common one, and in never smokers it is about 28% of cases. You see this is the performance wise, what we call as the Karnofsky the performance status. You can see in smokers it is quite high, it is about 58 to 63%. The stage 4, and as I have already told you, the extrathoracic disease is also quite high. This is again in case of never smokers, even those who are not smokers, you see the stage 4 non-small cell carcinoma is about 67% of cases, advanced non-small cell about 91% of cases, and extrathoracic disease about 41.5%. This is because I think the clinician does not suspect that a never smoker can have lung cancer, because that is a myth, because there are other factors which we will discuss in the subsequent slides. Then the overall you see the throughout the world there is a changing in the lung cancer histology. If you see this figure, as you can see in the left hand side, the square, these are in the black males, white males, black females and white females. The 4 everyone, these are 4 common types of lung cancer. If you see the first one, you see the squamous cell carcinoma is coming down in black males and the white males, whereas in case of black females and white females, the incidence of squamous cell carcinoma is increasing. Small cell carcinoma is decreasing in all the 4 populations, whereas please note the adenocarcinoma, the third one box, that shows there is increase in the incidence of adenocarcinoma in all types of population. Similarly, there is a decrease in the large cell population. So, what is interesting to note that the adenocarcinoma is gradually rising starting from 1973 to till about 1996, and the figures are same even today. This is what again in Asian women with lung cancer from 70s to the 90s, you can see in Singapore, Hong Kong, Guangzhou in China, Taiwan, Japan, you can see in 70s, and then that is in the yellow, and then in brown it is 1990s. You can see the adenocarcinoma even in the Southeast Asian countries, the adenocarcinoma is increasing. Then coming to the various causes of lung cancer, it is very well known that smoking is the most important cause. Then the other causes like occupational exposure, radiation, air pollution, then the role of diet and nutrition. Then something about smoking and lung cancer, as we know, the tobacco smoking has its origin in the lands of Mayan culture around 2000 BC. Then the first European people observed how indigenous smoked tobacco leaves in pipes, and then they imitated them to bring the practice into Europe in the early part of 16th century. Again, this is a very busy slide, but this just gives you the history of cigarette smoking. That is, we have got available data from 1912 till about 1950s, and of course the smoking is continuing. The first article about the relationship of lung cancer and smoking, that was reported in 1950, May 27, 1950 in the Journal of American Medical Association. They very clearly says, if you see there is a rather general agreement that the incidence of bronchogenic carcinoma has greatly increased in the last half century. Statistical studies at the Charity Hospital of New Orleans in USA, and that shows that they have revealed that at these hospitals cancer of the lung is now the most frequent visceral cancer in men, and then these are their detailed study. I am not going into the detail. And then came the famous paper in British Medical Journal by Dole and Hill, that is the famously known as the Dole and Hill the publication. They have shown in England and Wales the phenomenal increase in the number of deaths attributed to cancer of the lung provides one of the most striking changes in the pattern of mortality recorded by the Registrar General. So, they said at the last one, if you say the lung possible cause is the two main causes have been from time to time been put forth, that is a general atmospheric pollution from the exhaust fumes of cars, from the surface dust of tarred roads, and from gas workers, industrial plants, and the second one is the smoking of tobacco. So, they have summarized that of the study of over 700 carcinoma of the lung, they found that the most common cause was lung cancer. Then again the Dole and Hill, this is the similar comparison. Then again in the British doctors, that is a famous study by Dole and Pitot, they have also come with the similar conclusion. They are the different figures. I am not going to discuss about that. As you can see, the red one, those who are in the non-smokers, and then the blue one, that is in case of cigarette smokers. You can see there is a wide difference between the death because of lung cancer, those who are smokers, and then the middle one here, that shows those who have stopped smoking. The mortality is still less than that of non-smokers, but still it is less in comparison to those who continued smoking. Then again the same thing, same picture in males and females, the association of lung cancer and smoking. So, then another milestone in the relationship of smoking and lung cancer came in the 1964 Surgeon General of US report, that again say that a cause of lung cancer and laryngeal cancer in men, it is because of the smoking and the disease, the most important cause of chronic bronchitis, probable cause of lung cancer in women, and a cause of lung cancer and laryngeal cancer of men is because of smoking. Then again these are the smaller pictures. So, I am not going into those details, but again you see this is again the comparison of annual adult per capita cigarette consumption and major smoking and health events in United States between the year 1900 and 1998. If you can see, as the smoking increases per adult, this is average is taken, you can see whenever there is a dip as shown by the pointers, then there will be an increase in the incidence of smoking related problems including lung cancer. So, in 2012 there is a BMC cancer review that almost they included 287 studies. They are identified. The meta-analysis demonstrated a relationship of smoking with lung cancer risk. They reviewed the epidemiological evidence in the year 1900 onwards relating smoking to lung cancer. So, the meta-analysis of all the important studies, they demonstrated a clear relationship of smoking with lung cancer risk. If somebody is ever smoking, the relative risk is about 5.5, and then if there is a current smoking, it is 8.43, and then ex smoking is 4.3, and if pipe or cigar only smoking, it is 2.92. The relationship is stronger for squamous cell carcinoma than the adenocarcinoma, and it is evident in both sexes, although the relative risk somewhat higher in case of male. Then all continents also the relative risk is highest for North America and the lowest for Asia, particularly China. So, these are very important evidences, and again the associated is strong for both study types. As I told you, the relative risk was higher for prospective studies, relationship were somewhat stronger in the later starting and larger studies. Then the relative risk estimates were similar in cigarettes only and the mixed smokers, and similar in smokers of pipes, cigars only, pipes only and cigars only. Exceptionally, no increase in adeno risk was seen for pipe or cigar only smokers. Then the relative risk were unrelated to the mentholation, that is the menthol content in the cigarette, and higher for non-filter and hand-rolled cigarettes. The relative risk also increased with the amount smoked, duration smoking, earlier starting of age of smoking, and tar levels and fraction smoked, and the relative risk decreased with time of quitting. As if somebody leaves or quits smoking, then the relative risk will be decreased. Again, the relationships were strongest for small and squamous cell carcinoma, intermediate for larger cell carcinoma, and weakest for the adenocarcinoma. And then the covariate adjustment little affected the relative risk, whether it is sex or the region, geography, etc. So, this meta-analysis they concluded the association of lung cancer with smoking is strong, evident for all lung cancer types, dose related and insensitive to covariate adjustment. This emphasizes the causal nature of the relationship between smoking and lung cancer. These results quantify the relationships more precisely than thought of previously. I think this is a very, very solid evidence, such a large number of study done throughout the world. So, this is the relationship of smoking, and then comes the exposure and histology link. Smoking is associated with the small cell, large cell, adenocarcinoma and squamous cell. Then if it is chloromethyl ether, small cell in the smokers and non-smokers. If there is a radon exposure, it is small cell is more common. And then if asbestos, arsenic, chromium and nickel exposure, so there is no definite histology, that can be any type of lung cancer. Again, you see the risk is not limited to cigarette smoking. If a non-smoker, the same thing I have already told you. If it is non-smoker, if the relative risk is 1, when it is cigar only smoking, it is 5.6, if it is pipe only, it is 7.9, and if it is cigarette only, that is 14.9. This is a study by the way back that was in 1999, that was published in the Journal of National Cancer Institute. Similarly, if I summarize what I told you, the lung cancer attributable to smoking, in case of males, the smoking as etiology in about 86%, and in females it is about 49% of cases, and in developed countries the smoking is the most common cause, about 85%, that is 91% in males and 67% in females, and in developing countries it is 64%, meaning thereby there can be causes other than smoking in the developing countries, that we will see in the next slide. You see what are the benefits of smoking cessation, you see that I have already told you. You see the red one, that is the highest risk in case of current smokers. The next one, which is little brownish in color, that is if somebody stopped smoking at the age of 60, the risk is diminished after 60 to between 75. If he survives for 75 years up to the age of 75 years, you see the risk comes down. Then if he starts smoking at 50 years, if he starts smoking at 40 years, and if he is a lifelong smoker, the pink one at the bottom, but what it means, and it says that quitting smoking at any age is obviously beneficial, because the relative risk comes down, although it never reaches the lifelong non-smoker risk, right. Okay, so this is the the smoking. You see, this is the worldwide picture. Unfortunately, India in case of male smoking is the following China, having the highest number of smokers in China, followed by India. Still we have got a very all tobacco users, about 22 crore population in India, they are smokers, that is almost 20 to 30%, 25 to 30% of males are smokers. In case of females, again in USA, China, then India follows USA and China as regards the female tobacco users, about again 1.1 crore females, that this figure is of course for 2008, but this gives an idea the how our population smokes. So, the India we do not know is the world's second largest tobacco consuming nation, and then we have got 275 million tobacco users. There is a rising in the tobacco use. Then prevalence of tobacco use in India between the year 2009-2010, that shows about of the total population, that means that shows in blue about 35% of our population, the total population smokes, about 48% of adult males they smoke, and about 20% of adult females they smoke. So, this is what then you can calculate the risk. So, then the next point is whether there is a change in various issues about lung cancer. If you see the right hand side, actually the PGI Chandigarh, we published the largest series between 1977 and 1986, that is we published in Lung India in 1990, and that was 1009 cases, and then subsequently again between 2007 and 9 we reported another 250 cases, and it would try to compare what is the mean age. It is around 58 years, earlier it was 54 years. The males, it was most common in males, about more than 4 times commoner than females. The smokers was the highest, about 85%. The squamous cell carcinoma, it was still 35%. Adenocarcinoma about 26%. Small cell carcinoma around 18 to 20%. So, hardly there is any change in the scenario in the country. So, this is what this data shows, and then again, so there is a unchanging clinico-epidemiological profile of lung cancer in North India over 3 decades. Actually, there is not much change, right. But however, if you look very carefully this slide, which was published from 4 different places, what you notice in case of this is the one study from east, north, west and south. If you see in case of males, it is the highest in east and north, and then in west and south it is around 77%. Smokers was again the lowest from the western region, that is particularly from Tata and Mumbai, about only 48% were smokers, and in south it was only 60%. Then squamous cell carcinoma was still the commonest in east and northern regions, whereas in west and south you see the adenocarcinoma was the commonest, 42.6%, whereas in east and north is mainly PGI, it is around 28 to 30% were adenocarcinoma. And then again you see the I think this I have already shown you, this slide I have already shown you, and then the other risk factors for the cause of lung cancer apart from smoking is the most important is the second hand smoke, Then the occupational agents like exposure to asbestos, arsenic, silica, pesticides, exposure to known or suspected occupational lung carcinogens and certain industries. Then indoor air pollution because of domestic cooking with coal, biomass and cooking fumes. The outdoor air pollution, another important factor. The diet, particularly fruit, the total vegetables, they have got a protective effect, whereas meat and fish, fat consumption, and then the use of dairy, egg and soya product, then micronutrients deficiency like carotenoids if they are deficient, alpha and beta carotene, vitamin A, vitamin C, these are the protective things. If they are deficient, then the more chance of lung cancer. Arsenic in drinking water is another important risk factor. Then various hormone replacement therapy used very commonly in postmenopausal women and other indications. Then the other ones are the exposure to radon, various infections like HPV, HIV, chlamydia, pneumonia, etc. They are also important risk factors. Then history of previous lung diseases which we call as the scar carcinoma, it is TB, tuberculosis, asthma, COPD and IPF particularly associated with the scleroderma, and then of course exposure to ionizing radiation. These are some of the important other risk factors apart from smoking of course. This is a very important study if you focus, that is the biomass fuel and lung cancer in Indian women. You see most of the Indian women, those who are housewives, they are exposed to domestic fuel cooking and at very early age, and then the cooking, heating and then the boiling, preparation, so many things it is the domestic. If you see the various only if you focus the cooking with the fuels, the last 4 columns, if LPG which is it is reference category, if the risk is 1, then the use of kerosene, biomass and mixed fuels, you can see the risk of biomass fuel is about 5 times and then the mixed fuels is about 3. Of course, the kerosene it is it is very high risk if the use of kerosene. So, these are the important findings that we have done during our one of our studies in as early as 2005. So, biomass fuel and lung cancer is one of the important risk factors, and then the use of coal as a fuel that has been and kerosene also from Singapore and China, they have also they have also highlighted these as the important risk factor. Then passive smoking, again it is as a cause of lung cancer. You can see if the husband is a smoker, the relative risk is about 1.2 and wife is a smoker, it is about 1.3. So, there is a significant dose response relationship of lung cancer risk in both number of cigarette smoked by the spouse and with the exposure duration. Then some of the known carcinogens or definite carcinogens associated with lung cancer are arsenic, asbestos, bis-chloromethyl ether, chromium, hexavalent, then the nickel and the nickel compounds, polycyclic aromatic compounds, radon, vinyl chloride, etc. So, then one can ask, if every smoker, so many people are smoking, then why everybody should get cancer? No, that is not so. There is always a interaction between environment and the genes. For example, even if they are exposed, the carcinogen metabolism is different in different individuals, the DNA repair and then many other cellular mechanisms, protective mechanisms. So, they prevent the development of lung cancer, but it does not mean that you continue smoking and you do not have the risk. Then coming to the types of lung cancer, we know the 4 principal types based on microscopy appearance: squamous cell, small cell, adeno and large cell carcinoma. And then you can see, as I have told you, the smoking contribution is quite high. Then of course there are other risk factors you can see. And then what about lung cancer in India? You see, this I have just summarized the lung cancer reported between 58 to 85 in Indian literature, and then between 86 and 2001. The number of cases about 2000 and the 3000, you can see male female is high, but what I like you to focus that in case of males, this is a comparison in the other countries like some of the western countries, and the extreme right again you can see that the bar in the blue that says the squamous cell carcinoma is very common, and in case of females actually it is again still the squamous cell carcinoma is common. But if this figure, please give an attention to this slide that shows before the year 85 the adenocarcinoma was 15% of all lung cancers, but when it is between 86 to 2001 the percentage of or the contribution of adenocarcinoma was about 24%. But again please see that squamous cell carcinoma is the still common form of cancer, but however the adenocarcinoma percentage wise has increased from 15% before 85 to about 24% subsequently. So, although squamous cell carcinoma is still the commonest cancer in this country, but there is an increase in the incidence of adenocarcinoma. That is what is the message from this slide. So, the relative increase in adenocarcinoma globally, it is possibly because of changes in the smoking behavior of the population, changes in cigarette composition and manufacturing like filter cigarettes, lower content tar, etc. Then the in Asian women, that shows the prevalence of smoking in Asian women is generally low. So, the lung cancer in Asian women is relatively less, smoking prevalence rate is just little over 10%. Then active tobacco smoking lung cancer in Asian women not the major factor, and as I have shown you that the domestic cooking is one of the important risk factors, and then so also the second hand smoking or what we call the passive smoking or the environmental tobacco smoke, and then cooking oil vapors, particularly in Chinese cooking for stir and deep frying cooking oils are heated to high temperatures in a wok or pan. The same thing also in this country, we do it in a little different way. Then the other thing I have told you, in Asian women, indoor coal burning, burning of smoky coal for heating and cooking, burning of incense sticks, diet, TB, human papilloma virus infection, microsporum canis infection. These are common in the eastern in the Southeast Asian countries. You can see this is a Chinese cooking for stir and deep frying. You see you can see even the lady, the everything is filled, the everything is filled with smoke. So this so the amount inhaled will be obviously is a carcinogen. And then the same thing I have already told you. Then some of the genetic factors have been identified like human leukocyte antigens, that is KRAS oncogene, sorry it is not KRAS. Then the P53 and F heat tumor suppressor genes, then activating and detoxifying enzymes like glutathione, S transferase, cytochrome P450 enzymes, and N-acetyl transferase acetylator status. So, they also contribute to the development of lung cancer. Then the lung cancer demography, the time trends, the possible reasons for lack of change, that is the BD, not cigarette remains the most common smoking product still in this country. Then the ratio of BD to cigarette smoking in India, you can see overall is around 3. In rural areas it is still high, 6 times more common than cigarette. And then in lung cancer patients, BD smoking is 7 times higher than the cigarette smoking. It is again because of the smoking habit. And then unlike cigarette smoking, there is no change in the process of BD manufacturing. Primarily it is a cottage industry. So the epidemiology is still the same, and the quit rates for smoking continues to be less than 10% because not many people quit. And then you can see the cigarette and then the BD, different people use cigarette and BD. Then you see, coming to the evolution of non-smell carcinoma, what is the newer epidemiology that has come? You see, in the 87, the traditional view was squamous, adeno, large cell carcinoma. Even people that I will show in the next slides. In 87 we say the mutation was KRAS, and then the most of the things were unknown. And then in 2004 we came the KRAS and EGFR mutation. Then 2009 we have got, you see, the host of other mutations they could be diagnosed or identified. That will discuss little more detail subsequently. But you see, but now you see the EGFR mutation, particularly in the never smoking East Asian females, you see EGFR mutation is present in about 80%, 78 to 80% of adenocarcinomas in the never smoking East Asians, right. Whereas the other mutations will be EML4 ALK about 6%, HER2 mutation 3.8%, KRAS mutation about 1.9% and unknown about 9.6%. You see, this is the EGFR mutation which is very commonly coming up. This is again there is a very worldwide difference in the, if you see the Southeast Asian countries, I told you China about 41 to 50%, and then Japan is about 41 to 49%, Taiwan about 34%, Philippines 52%, Australia about 7%, Hong Kong 47%, Vietnam 64%, Thailand about 54%, whereas India it is between 25 to 40%, whereas if you see in the western more developed country like USA and then the European countries, it is less, it is around 10 to 15 or at best 20%. This is a contrast in the worldwide the epidemiology of lung cancer. You see the same thing I have shown you here, the China in the adenocarcinoma EGFR 40%, Japan about 50%, and then there is a lung cancer mutation consortium in USA. So, they have tried to study 10 different genes. You see KRAS is the most common, and then EGFR is around 15%, and the other ones like ALK about 8%, EGFR others, then mutation is more than one gene, BRAF, HER2, PIK3CA, MET, NRAS, MEK1, and about 37% there is no mutation found. They studied the 10 different mutations. So, then in India the results of EGFR mutation, this is study from Delhi. So, about the positive about 32.8% of cases there is EGFR positive, and about 4 to 5% will be ALK fusion gene. This is important because they have got important therapeutic implications. While we will be discussing the management, we will be discussing about that. This is again the molecular epidemiological status of EGFR mutation in a different countries that I have already told you. But you see in India there are 4 or 5 different places, Bangalore, Mumbai, Vellore, Mumbai and Delhi. The figure varies from different places between 25 to 52%. Again there is a great variation in different regions. This is very strange, whether it is a meteorological difference or whether there is a real population difference. It is possibly too early because these are the publications from different parts of the country. This is in PGI that as we see, we have tested between January 2012 to February 2016, more than 360 patients were tested. So, age about 60 years, then 20% were positive for the EGFR mutation, and of these 4 there are different mutation in exon 19 and exon 21. You see the most common was the exon 19 deletion, 3 times more common than the exon 21, and again it is more common in females about 1.3 times. Then again this is the, as I have told you, number tested and interpreted over 363 cases, ALK testing done in 255 cases. I will tell you what is this EGFR and ALK during my discussion on management. So, you can see the percentage, it is most common in case of females, and the percentage I have already told you. So, what we see, Asia contributed maximum number of lung cancer cases to the world pool. Mortality is also quite high, 60% of them die. Etiology other than smoking in Asia, including India, particularly more in women is more common, and then mortality is high in females. Histology is different, that is adenocarcinoma, there is a rise in the adenocarcinoma histology, and again molecular epidemiology in Asia is different than in developed countries, particularly USA and Europe. So, then question is why there is increase in adenocarcinoma. One may ask, there is a substantial change in the characteristics of cigarette and the associated changes in the dosage of carcinogens, as I have told you, and the deposition pattern in the lung. Then puff volume has a little likely increased in the past few decades, with the possibility that pattern of deposition in the lung have changed, tending towards enhanced deposition of tobacco smoke in the peripheral airways and alveoli, which are actually the common sites for adenocarcinoma. And the third thing is the nitrate level in tobacco smoke have also increased, which enhances the combustion of tobacco smoke. Although more complete combustion decreases the concentration of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, the increased production of nitrogen oxides contribute to increased formation of tobacco specific nitrosamines, which is again the cause of adenocarcinoma, and an increase in the dosage of the potent TSNA and then other carcinogens, and then this NNALA, that is, as you can see, that induces lung carcinoma, predominantly adenomas and adenocarcinoma in experimental animals. So, then the next 4 or 5 slides is about pathology and the molecular diagnosis. You know, this, as I was telling you, the lung cancer classification, if you see from the in the before 90s or 80s, we are just happy if you say there is a lung cancer, not much attention was given what are the type of cancer. Then the next decade, for about in the 2000s, then we say whether it is non-small cell carcinoma or small cell carcinoma, right. Non-small cell carcinoma, then in the next decade we saw the non-small cell lung cancer was classified into adenocarcinoma, large cell carcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. The currently from 2012-13 onwards, now it is a targeted today. So, now you have to say that whether it is in addition to the cell type, we have to say whether it is EGFR positive, ALK positive or any one of the other mutations like ROS1, MET, etc., is positive or not. So, then for the future, obviously the BRAF, the HER2, RET or RET, KRAS and then the other mutations, there are trials and then the development of drugs to target these mutations. So, this is what is the change over the since the 90s. We are no more happy if it is lung cancer, if it is non-small cell or small cell lung cancer. Now, you have to tell me whether the lung cancer is what mutation is positive or mutation is negative, and again there are so many mutation sites because they are targetable, druggable, specific drugs are available for that. So, what you do whenever you are doing a HE staining for diagnosis and subtyping, so keep tissue sample for in addition for the immunohistochemistry or cytochemistry for decreasing the non-small cell carcinoma not otherwise specified subgroup, and then obviously molecular testing like EGFR, ALK and ROS. So, this is how one should move. It is just not lung cancer, non-small cell, small cell is good enough. So, it is the current era of targeted agents, it is of utmost importance to accurately subtype non-small cell lung cancer in adeno or squamous, as relevant molecular studies need to be performed. Then targeted agents specific to adenocarcinoma licensed for use, available for use like EGFR, tyrosine kinase inhibitors, ALK inhibitors and vascular endothelial growth factor inhibitors. Then subtype specific chemotherapy regimens are now available. Say for example, for adenocarcinoma, if you are deciding to give chemotherapy, but not a targeted therapy because mutation is not positive, then the specific drug is pemetrexed, which is not useful for squamous cell carcinoma. So, these are the newer advances that has taken place recently. So, you say you have to go for immunocyto or histochemistry, you know the 10 to 30% of the non-small cell lung cancer, they remain untypable on morphologic assessment. So, immunohistochemistry or immunocytochemistry needs to be performed in such cases to accurately type of lung cancer. Say for example, if it is adenocarcinoma, it is TTF1 positive, CK7 positive, napsin A positive and mucin positive. If it is squamous cell carcinoma, so these are the immunochemical panel, that means CK5, CK6, P63 and P40 will be positive in squamous cell carcinoma. If it is small cell carcinoma or large neuroendocrine carcinoma, then CD56, synaptophysin and chromogranin, they will be positive. So, a combination of markers to be used to accurately differentiate between adeno, squamous and a small cell carcinoma. And then if it is TTF1 positive, say for example, so you are very sure that adenocarcinoma is primarily has come from the lung and so on, right. So, this is again another necessity. So, when you have to do the molecular testing, that is molecular testing for EGFR and ALK should be done in the following patients: all non-squamous tumors with advanced or recurrent, all non-squamous tumors, selected squamous tumors in lifetime, non-smokers or those with remote smoking history. Even if it is squamous tumor, you have to do it. Then testing for KRAS has only negative predictive value, like positivity excludes the presence of EGFR mutation and ALK rearrangement, not recommended for first line testing, right. And then these are the EGFR activating mutations as I told. There will be exons 18, 19, 20 and 21 should be tested for the presence of activating mutations. Most common mutations are exon 19 deletion and exon 21 L858R mutations. Then various techniques they are recommended, that the direct sequencing is the gold standard. Then EGFR mutation specific antibodies, that is upcoming, but not yet recommended, but now it has come into the use. Then other things like EGFR FISH, CISH and EGFR protein immunohistochemistry are that no more recommended for clinical use, right. So, these are the mutation specific antibodies, these are very EGFR, the DNA sequencing is a laborious process. So, there are need for simple techniques. Then the ALK arrangement, the most common arrangement is the ALK EML4 fusion. So, this is what we call as the anaplastic lymphoma kinase fusion. It occurs in about 3 to 5% of the lung adenocarcinomas, and then these are the techniques to be used, that is break up at FISH, this is the gold standard. However, chromosome in situ hybridization and immunohistochemistry for ALK fusion protein can also be used. So, in a good clinical practice, the clinician or radiologist when taking biopsies must ensure that adequate sample is obtained for both immunochemistry as well as molecular studies. When the diagnosis is being made on cytology specimens like pleural fluid, TBNA specimens or transthoracic needle aspiration, it should be ensured that a cell block is made. The immunochemical test should be limited to 2 or 3 stains so as to preserve adequate tissue for molecular studies, especially when diagnosing adenocarcinoma. So, during this part of my lecture on lung cancer, what I tried to tell you about the epidemiology, how the lung cancer over the years has become the most common cancer now in the world, including in Asian regions and also in India. I have also tried to tell you what are the various etiologies, what are the risk factors for development of lung cancer. And thirdly, I also told you the importance of molecular diagnosis that has come up very recently, different types, why we should do it. So, with this I thank you all for your kind attention.